we kind of get started. A number of you folks have been here before, so you kind of know where things are. The bathrooms are basically down this hall and up that next corridor that's to your right. We're a circle around this little garden area here. The cafeteria where lunch is in the back. What we try to do each year is we try to sell lunch tickets. It just makes it easier than having somebody at the door to handle money. So, lunch tickets are $5, and you can get them at the registration table if you forgot to do that. We will have raffle stuff later, and we'll tell you what it is and stuff once we get past the first burst here. I'm trying to think if there are any other details. This is a chapel, and so we kind of ask, that you're not, certainly nothing on the altar, but this is the best we could do. And some people have objected to that. This is the best we can do, and it's a gift of the Basilian Fathers. So we're very thankful. This whole conference is a gift of the Basilian Fathers, and they've supported us year after year. They've had us come in and bring speakers, and our debt to them is immense. Father Joe Lanzalaga's wandering around, or was, he may have disappeared here briefly, but he's largely been responsible for making sure that we have the resources through the campus ministry office here that enable us to keep going. And do this every year, so we're much thankful to them, and of course Father Leo Hetzler and the other Basilians of Rochester. So this is our ninth annual conference. I always get choked up when I say that because I think of how impossible this whole effort is, but we've been doing this for nine years, and as you know, we've had some very successful conferences here. What we try to do is to have copious time in between the presentations. The speakers are here. They're very accessible people, even Dale Ahlquist. You can talk to him. Just like a human being. Or Joseph Pierce, you can talk to him, and if you can understand him, you're doing very well. But feel free to just go right up to them and ask them any questions or whatever. I mean, they're very accessible, and I think that's one of the really nice things about this conference. Is we don't, we used to try to compress and compact. We try not to compress too much into this little space and give you time to meet people, talk with people. There are books for sale. We'll have some wonderful items to raffle, and overall, I think it's a nice way to spend the day. So I trust you will enjoy it. Our theme for this conference is, our title of it, is History Matters. Our theme is History from a Christian Perspective. And our little agenda, our purpose here is kind of to undermine the world a little bit, to take a poke at what one of our speakers consistently refers to as chronological snobbery that reflects itself in the glut of information and news we're surrounded with in day-to-day life. I mean, from the hairdos of the entertainment media and employees who, call themselves the news, and they would like us all to be saps, admittedly. And I guess the undermine strategy analogy works really well, because I think instead of being saps, we as Christians need to be sappers. Our interest in his history from a Christian perspective, which to anyone with a proper dose of skepticism is the only coherent perspective. I don't know if there's a better way to say that, but I think my speakers would basically agree with that statement. That only when seen from a Christian point of view, do you really have any chance to get a really good grasp of history? Coming at history from this perspective, there are a million topics we could have covered. So we pulled four that I think kind of illuminate history from different directions, all from the Christian perspective, but each with a little bit of a different twist. So our first speaker, Mr. Christopher Check, is going to talk about the Battle of Lepanto. It's a hugely significant event in Christendom, and it's something about which we hear nothing and are not taught about in school. So that's the kind of history that we should know and don't know, and is kind of hidden from us. And the next topic is even worse. It's one that the world would like to deny, and that's the events at Fatima, Portugal, and that will be presented by Mr. David Higby. Following this, we're going to look at the real England from a Catholic perspective from Mr. Joseph Pierce. I think that's going to give a different light on history, because I think I expect that it will give testament to the fact that history often happens underneath the surface. It's not as much about wars and kings and battles as we might think. Finally, we'll have a look at history we don't know and can't know. But I think it'll give us a little bit of a look into how important myth is in history, and that'll be Dale was talking about King Arthur. Again, in each of these topics, we're going to be introduced to history from a perspective that's really not taught in our schools and not known, or in fact is pretty much often deliberately ignored in what we call education today. Newman, would say, I can't find it in Newman, right? You go look for something in Newman, say, I know Newman said that. Well, you start looking in Newman, you're going to get lost, and it's a great place to get lost. I can't find the exact passage. But he expresses he's incredulous that anyone could understand history from anything but a Christian perspective. I think the most insightful comments in history, though, that are packaged and put in one place, would come from Christopher Dawson. Speaking of Augustine, St. Augustine in his work, The City of God, Dawson said, St. Augustine sees history as the meeting point of time and eternity. And that is a start at the Christian perspective, the meeting point of time and eternity. I want to close with a little paragraph from Dawson that kind of gives you a sampling of his thought, and I certainly recommend Christopher Dawson to anybody that not only enjoys history but wants to get a little bit beneath the surface of history and understand it from a Christian perspective. This is from his essay, A Christian View of History. There's incarnational aspects to this. There's scriptural and certainly mystery, kind of all packed into this paragraph. To give you a little context on this, Dawson has just sort of criticized other views of history, and including the Marxist or materialist view. So he's just come off kind of describing its defects. I need a moment for my book is very high. The Christian view, compared to the Marxist view, is coextensive with time. It covers the whole life of humanity on this planet, and ends only with the end of this world and of man's temporal existence. It is essentially a theory of the interpenetration of time and eternity, so that the essential meaning of history is to be found in the growth of the seed of eternity in the womb of time. For man is not merely a creature of the economic process, a producer-consumer. He is an animal that is conscious of his mortality and consequently aware of eternity. In the same way, the end of history is not the development of a new form of economic society, but the creation of a new humanity, or rather a higher humanity, which goes as far beyond man as man himself goes beyond the animals. Now, Christians not only believe in the existence of a divine plan in history, they believe in the existence of a human society which is in some measure aware of this plan and capable of cooperating with it. Thousands of years ago, the Hebrew prophet warned his people not to learn the ways of the nations who were dismayed at the signs of the times. For the nations were the servants of their own creatures, the false gods, who were the work of delusion and who must perish in the time of visitation. And I quote here, "But the portion of Jacob is not like these, for he that formed all things has made Israel to be the people of his inheritance." The same thing is true today of the political myths and ideologies which modern man creates in order to explain the signs of the time. These are our modern idols, which are no less bloodthirsty than the gods of the heathen, and which demand an even greater tribute of human sacrifice. But the church remains the guardian of the secret of history, and the organ of the work of human redemption, which goes on ceaselessly through the rise and fall of kingdoms and the revolutions of social systems. It is true that the church has no immediate solution to offer in competition with those of the secular ideologies. On the other hand, the Christian solution is the only one which gives full weight to the unknown and unpredictable element in history, whereas the secular ideologies which attempt to eliminate this element and which almost invariably take an optimistic view of the immediate future are inevitably disconcerted and disillusioned by the emergence of this unknown factor at the point at which they thought it had been finally banished. Sorry, I know that's a little hefty, but that's just a sampling of Christopher Dawson, and it just gives you an idea that, maybe history is something that we ought to pay more attention to. So it's on that, with that sort of tone that we have this conference. Dale Alquist will introduce our first speaker,